Do you know the real story behind Avril Lavigne's battle with Lyme disease? In this video we tell you all about the most difficult moments in the life of the queen of pop punk, from the height of her career to the days when she thought she was going to die, unable to get out of bed. Have you ever gone through a difficult time like Avril? How did you find the strength to carry on? Comment below. Imagine a little girl, born in a small town in Canada called Napanee. Her name? Avril Lavigne. From a very young age, Avril knew what she wanted to be: a music star. While many children dreamed of being astronauts, doctors or teachers, Avril picked up a guitar and imagined herself on a crowded stage, singing for thousands of people. She wasn't like other girls her age. While some preferred to play with dolls, Avril loved skateboarding, playing hockey with the boys and singing at the top of her lungs. Her talent was natural, and her parents soon realized that this little girl had something special. They encouraged her, took her to singing competitions and saw Avril excel in everything she did. At the age of 14, Avril was already writing her own songs. She didn't want to sing what everyone else was singing. She wanted to tell stories about her own life, about her emotions, and about not fitting into the standards that society imposed. That's how she caught the attention of big music producers. Now stop for a moment and imagine. A rebellious teenager with a laid-back look, messy hair and a guitar in her hand, ready to conquer the world. That's exactly what happened. At the age of 17, Avril signed a contract with a major record label and moved to the United States to record her first album. Little did she know that within a few months her face would be in magazines, her voice would be played on every radio, and her name would become known all over the world. The girl from Napanee was about to become the queen of pop punk. Now tell me, have you ever had a dream so big that it seemed impossible? Well, Avril had it too, and she proved that nothing is impossible when you believe in yourself. Want to know what happened next? Stay with me because this story is just beginning. The height of success and the punk pop identity. Now imagine this. A girl of just 17 years old with a look totally different from the pop singers of the time. While other stars wore shiny clothes and danced rehearsed choreography, Avril Lavigne appeared in a baggy t-shirt, tie, worn-out sneakers, and an attitude that screamed, "I'm different and I don't care what people think." And then, bim! In 2002, Avril released her first album, Let Go, and the world was never the same again. The first song, Complicated, exploded on all radio stations. It was a song that talked about fake people, about being who you really are. Teenagers identified with it immediately. After all, who has never felt that the world was too complicated? And it didn't stop there. Soon after, Avril released Sk8er Boi, a high-energy song about a girl who rejected a skateboarder boy but later realized he became a huge star. It was an anthem for anyone who felt like an outsider and wanted to show the world who they were. That was just the beginning. The album sold millions of copies, and Avril became the coolest girl in music. While Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera dominated the charts with danceable pop, Avril kicked in with her rebellious, authentic sound. The media began calling her the princess of pop punk, and fans fell in love with her authenticity. But despite her success, Avril never tried to be anyone but herself. Her unique style inspired an entire generation of girls to wear sneakers, skate, and not be afraid to be different. She wasn't there to please anyone. She was there to make real music. And that's exactly what she did. So, do you remember when you first heard Avril? Which song made an impression on you? Tell us in the comments because this story is only getting more intense. Do you think Avril's life was all success and joy? Not even close. What comes next are challenges that no one could have imagined. Stay with me because this story still has a lot to surprise you. Life in the spotlight and the demands of the industry. Now stop and imagine, you're only 18 years old and suddenly the whole world knows who you are. Everywhere you go there are cameras, fans shouting your name, journalists wanting to know every detail of your life. It sounds like a dream, right? But for Avril Lavigne, this gigantic fame came with a weight that few people can bear. After the huge success of Let Go, everyone wanted more from Avril. The record company wanted another album. The fans wanted new songs. The tours never ended. He barely had time to breathe. So in 2004 she released her second album, Under My Skin. Now her songs were darker, deeper. My Happy Ending, Don't Tell Me, Nobody's Home. They all spoke of heartbreak, loneliness, and the difficulty of dealing with real life behind the scenes. And behind the scenes, Avril was feeling the weight. Her schedule was crazy. She would spend months traveling, playing shows in a different country every week. There were days when she didn't even know what city she was in. Sometimes all she wanted was a little peace, but she couldn't stop. The music industry is ruthless. There was always someone saying, "You have to change your look. You have to make more commercial music. You have to look more feminine." But Avril, she didn't want to fit in. She wanted to be herself, to make her music her way. And that wasn't easy. Little by little she became isolated. She no longer knew who to trust. Did people really like her? Or did they just want something from her because she was famous? And that was just the beginning. The worst was yet to come. What about you? Have you ever felt like everyone expected something from you, but deep down all you wanted was some time for yourself? Avril went through that too. And the next parts of this story are even more intense. Stay with me because the biggest challenge of Avril's life is yet to come. The first sign: something was wrong. Now imagine that you spent years living at an insane pace. Endless tours, traveling from one country to another with little or no breaks to breathe. That's how Avril Lavigne lived her youth. But one day something strange started to happen. It all started subtly. Fatigue. Avril thought it was just a consequence of her intense routine. She was always full of energy on stage, jumping, running, singing with all her might. But suddenly, even the simplest things started to seem difficult. She would wake up in the morning and feel her body heavy, as if she were carrying a huge weight. During the shows, she noticed that she didn't have the same energy as before. That tiredness wasn't normal. Over time, the symptoms got worse. Avril started to feel strong muscle pain, sudden dizziness, and a fatigue that just wouldn't go away. It must just be stress, she thought. After all, she was used to an exhausting routine. But something inside her told her that there was something more. The doctors, however, didn't help. Each one said something different. Some said it was just anxiety. Others said it could be depression. But Avril felt that it wasn't just a psychological thing. There was something wrong with her body, something that no one could explain. Meanwhile, the industry kept demanding of her. She couldn't stop. The commitments couldn't wait. But Avril knew that her body was crying out for help. It was at that moment that her life began to change forever. She just didn't know what was coming. What about you? Have you ever felt like your body was warning you that something was wrong, but no one took you seriously? Avril was about to discover that her intuition was right. But it would come in the worst possible way. Don't leave, because now the story gets even more intense. The fight for a diagnosis. A medical enigma. Now imagine what it would be like to go to the doctor with a serious problem, feeling that something wasn't right but leaving without answers. This happened to Avril Lavigne several times. The symptoms didn't go away. On the contrary, they only got worse. She would wake up feeling heavy, as if she had run a marathon, even though she had slept all night. Muscle pains would come out of nowhere. Sometimes she felt like she couldn't move properly. The doctors, they said it was psychological. You must be stressed. Maybe it's depression. This could just be accumulated fatigue. But Avril knew that it wasn't just that. She tried to explain what she was feeling, but no one seemed to understand. It was as if she were trapped inside a never-ending nightmare. The test showed nothing concrete. Meanwhile, Avril continued her routine of appointments, but now with absurd difficulty. The worst part, she began to doubt herself. Am I really sick? Is all this just in my head? But the symptoms didn't stop. The pain, the weakness, the extreme fatigue. Something was wrong. Very wrong. It was only after months of suffering and many appointments that Avril finally received the answer that would change her life forever. Lyme disease. A serious infection caused by a tick bite that attacks the entire body. The nervous system, the muscles, the mind. Everything was affected. And now the real nightmare was about to begin. Can you imagine what it's like to beg for help and no one believes you? Avril experienced this firsthand. But now that she knew what she had, the real struggle was just beginning. Stay with me, because what comes next is one of the most difficult phases of her life. The Lyme disease diagnosis. Now imagine this. You've spent months feeling unexplained pain with a fatigue that prevents you from even getting out of bed, and no one can give you an answer. You feel lost, frustrated, and worst of all, the people around you start to doubt what you're feeling. That's exactly how Avril Lavigne felt before she finally found out she had Lyme disease. After seeing several doctors who said it was just stress or depression, she decided to seek a second, third, fourth opinion, until a specialist confirmed what Avril already knew. Something was really wrong. Lyme disease is caused by the bite of an infected tick. Seems simple, but it is not. If not treated in time, it can attack the nervous system, muscles, joints, and even the brain. And that is what happened to Avril. She finally got a diagnosis, but along with it came a frightening truth. There was no immediate cure. The treatment would be long, difficult, and she would have to fight every day to regain her health. The severity of the disease caused Avril to step away from music and the stage. For the first time since her career began, she had to say, "I can't go on." And that was the hardest decision of her life. But she had no choice. Her body was at its limit. And the worst moment was yet to come. Have you ever gone through a moment when you realized you needed to stop everything to take care of yourself? Avril faced it in the most painful way possible. And in the next moments of this story, we will see how her battle with Lyme disease became a true test of endurance. Stay with me, because what comes next is the darkest period of her life. The hardest period, unable to get up. Now imagine that one day you wake up and realize that you can't move properly. Your body hurts, your head is heavy, and even opening your eyes seems like a huge effort. The simple act of getting out of bed seems impossible. That's how Avril Lavigne lived through her worst months. After being diagnosed with Lyme disease, her life changed completely. The girl who used to run around the stage, jump and sing with all her energy, was now stuck in bed, without the strength to even take a shower by herself. She spent 5 whole months bedridden. 5 months in which any movement was a battle. And the worst part? She didn't know when or if it would end. Will I ever get better? Will I ever be able to sing again? Is this how my life ends? These thoughts ran through her head every day. He felt fear, frustration, anger. It was as if her own body had betrayed her. The medications were strong, the treatments were intense, but the symptoms never seemed to go away. Some days were a little better, but on others she felt like she was regressing. And it was in these moments that Avril faced her greatest emotional challenge. Will people forget me? What if I can never make music again? Who am I if I can't sing? She was alone. Far from the stage, far from her fans, not knowing if she would ever be the Avril the world knew again. But deep down there was something inside her that didn't want to give up. Something told her that this wouldn't be her last battle. And it was during this period, between fear and uncertainty, that Avril found strength where she least expected it. Have you ever been through a time so difficult that it seemed like there was no way out? Avril was there. But what she did next proved that even in the worst moment there is still hope. Stay with me, because this story is not over yet. And what comes next is the most exciting turn of her life. Fear and uncertainty. I thought I was going to die. Now close your eyes and try to imagine. You are lying in your bed, weak, without the strength to get up. Your mind is confused, your body doesn't respond, and the only thing you feel is a deep fear. That's exactly how Avril Lavigne felt during her worst bout with Lyme disease. She couldn't get out of bed on her own. Simple tasks like brushing her teeth or taking a shower seemed impossible. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what she felt inside. Will this ever go away? What if I never get better? Is this the end? The truth is, Avril thought she was going to die. Yes, she truly believed her life was ending. The disease was so intense that she felt like she was losing control over her own body. I felt like I was drowning, she revealed in an interview years later. The worst part? There was nothing anyone could do. The doctors said that treatment would take time, but Avril wanted an immediate answer. She wanted to wake up the next day and be fine, but that wasn't happening. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. And she was still there, stuck in that bed, not knowing when or if she would get better. During this time, Avril withdrew from everything and everyone. She didn't want to see anyone. Depression began to take over. She saw her fans asking for her, hoping she would come back with new music. But the truth is, she didn't even know if she would. And it was in this darkness that Avril realized something very important. No one could save her but herself. And then she made a decision. If I can't get up now, I'll fight until I can. That was the turning point. The moment Avril decided to fight for her own life. And that fight was just beginning. Have you ever faced a moment when you thought there was no way out? Avril was there, but what she did next proved that there is always a way to start over. Stay with me, because now comes the most exciting phase of her story. And you will be surprised by the strength of this woman. The role of family and fans in recovery. Now imagine that you are at the worst moment of your life. You feel weak, alone, and hopeless. Everything you knew, your routine, your dreams, your energy, feels like it's been ripped away from you. But then you realize there are people who haven't given up on you. That's what happened to Avril Lavigne. Even in her darkest days when she could barely speak or move, there was one person who never left her side: her mother. She traveled to Avril's house to care for her every day. "My mom would hold me, help me bathe, feed me," Avril later said. That made all the difference. In the midst of the pain, fear, and uncertainty, knowing there was someone there who believed in her recovery brought her some comfort. But that wasn't all. Even away from the stage, Avril felt the strength of her fans. She began receiving letters, messages, videos, gifts from people all over the world. They were messages saying, "Avril, we miss you. You changed my life with your songs. We're rooting for you, don't give up." And that touched her. "I felt like I had to keep fighting. Not just for myself but for all those people who loved me and believed in me." It was a slow and painful process, but day after day Avril began to feel that maybe there was hope. She realized that, although she was going through the worst moment of her life, she was not alone. Her family was there. Her fans were there. And above all, she herself decided that she would not give up. What about you? Have you ever gone through a difficult time and found strength in those who love you? Avril experienced it and used that energy to take the first step in her recovery. Now comes the turning point. Avril was about to transform all that pain into something powerful. And the result was one of the most moving songs of her career. Stay with me because now comes the most inspiring moment of this story. The comeback, treatment and hope. Now imagine spending years being strong for others. You are a star, an inspiration, and people expect you to be invincible. But suddenly you lose your strength, you need help for everything, and you don't know if you will ever get better. That was the moment when Avril Lavigne had to make the most important choice of her life: to fight or to give up. And she decided to fight. Even though she was weak, even though she was in pain, even though she was afraid, she started treatment. There is no cure for Lyme disease overnight. The process is long, painful, and full of uncertainties. Avril had to take strong antibiotics, change her diet, and relearn how to live. Every week she felt small improvements. She was able to sit without feeling dizzy. She was able to walk to the living room without needing help. She was able to eat without feeling nauseous. And then one day something incredible happened. Avril looked at the piano in her house, the one that had been untouched for months because she didn't even have the strength to play it. She took a deep breath, dragged herself over to it, put her fingers on the keys, and started to compose. It was a powerful moment. It was as if the music was bringing Avril back to life. The first words she wrote were, "God, keep my head above water." These words would become the song Head Above Water, a true anthem about her fight against Lyme disease. This song was born from a moment when I felt like I was drowning, but somehow I found the strength to carry on. Every note of this song is a piece of Avril's pain and overcoming. But this wasn't just a song. It was a warning to the world. Avril was coming back. What about you? Have you ever had a moment when you thought you couldn't do it anymore, but found strength where you least expected it? Avril used music to get her back on her feet, and now the world was about to hear it again. Stay tuned, because now the story gets exciting. Avril Lavigne was ready for her big comeback. The impact on her career, a music hiatus. Now imagine that you spent years building your career, becoming one of the most famous artists in the world. Fans eagerly await your next album, your tours, your new music. But suddenly you have to stop everything. That's exactly what happened to Avril Lavigne. Lyme disease not only affected her health, but also her career. For the first time since she became a star, she had to take a complete break from music. No more touring. No more interviews. No more recordings. She disappeared from the spotlight. Many fans didn't understand what was happening. The media started to speculate. Some said she was simply tired, while others even spread bizarre theories, such as the famous theory that Avril had been replaced by a lookalike. But the truth was much more painful. Avril was struggling to survive. She saw other artists releasing albums and touring the world, and she wondered, will I ever be able to come back? Will people remember me? What if I can never sing again? The uncertainty was overwhelming. But at the same time, that time away from the stage made Avril see life differently. For the first time in many years, she had time for herself. She began to appreciate the little things, being with her family, taking a walk outside, feeling the sun on her face. And most importantly, she realized that music was her greatest passion and that she could not give it up. What about you? Have you ever had to put something important in your life on hold and been afraid that you would never be able to return? Avril had been through it, but now she was preparing for the biggest comeback of her career. Stay with me because now comes Avril Lavigne's big comeback. And it was more emotional than anyone could have imagined. The triumphant return with Head Above Water. Now imagine that you spent years away from everything you love. You were at the peak of your career and suddenly you had to stop. The disease took you off the stage, the studio, and even your own life. But one day you decide to fight back. That's exactly what Avril Lavigne did. After years of treatment, pain, uncertainty, and fear, she finally felt strong enough to return to music. But this would not be just any comeback. She needed to tell her story. That's how Head Above Water was born, one of the most emotional songs of her career. The song wasn't just about her struggle with Lyme disease. It was a cry for help, a prayer, an outpouring of everything she had been through in the last few years. God, keep my head above water. This song represented the moments when Avril felt like she was going to drown, but found the strength to carry on. When she released it in 2018, the world finally understood what she had been through. Fans who had waited years for her comeback were thrilled. For the first time, Avril wasn't singing about love, rebellion, or youth. She was singing about survival. And it wasn't just the song that showed this transformation. The music video for Head Above Water showed a different Avril. She was no longer in sneakers and a tie, full of punk attitude. She was barefoot, dressed in white, in an epic setting, seemingly reborn from the water. It was a clear symbol. Avril had weathered the storm and come out stronger. The response from the public was incredible. The song became an anthem for many people who were also going through difficult times. It wasn't just Avril's fans who could relate. It was anyone who had ever felt fear, pain, and uncertainty. I wanted this song to help people the way music has always helped me, Avril said. And she did it. With Head Above Water, Avril not only marked her return to music, she proved to the world and herself that she was back. What about you? Have you ever gone through a phase where you thought you had no strength left, but found a way to move on? Avril used music to transform her pain into something powerful. And that was just the first part of her triumphant comeback. Now Avril was ready for more. And what came next would show that the queen of pop punk still had a lot to say. Stay with me because the next phase is electrifying. Avril's role in Lyme disease awareness. Now imagine that you survived a battle that almost took your life. You spent years suffering, feeling afraid, isolating yourself from the world, but finally managed to rise up. What would you do with that experience? Would you keep it to yourself or would you use your voice to help others? For Avril Lavigne, the answer was clear. She needed to talk about it. After everything she had been through, Avril realized that Lyme disease was still little known. Many people suffered from the same symptoms she had, but could not get a diagnosis because, just like Avril, doctors did not take the symptoms seriously. She knew how desperate it was to feel that something was wrong with your body and no one believed you. That is why she used her voice to raise awareness about the seriousness of Lyme disease. She created the Avril Lavigne Foundation, an organization to help patients facing this disease, offering support, information, and even financial assistance for treatments. She began to speak openly about her experience, giving interviews, recording videos, and explaining how the disease works. She launched campaigns to raise funds for medical research, helping in the search for more effective treatments. She helped people identify with their symptoms, encouraging those who felt something strange in their body to seek a specialist. This attitude of Avril's saved lives. Many people who had no idea they had the disease found out early on thanks to her warning. Instead of just going back to music and forgetting what she had been through, Avril turned her pain into a mission to help others. Now, I know that everything I went through was for something bigger. If my story can help someone get treatment in time, then it was worth it, Avril said in an interview. And that's the true essence of being a star. It's not just about music, fame, or money. It's about using your voice for something bigger. What about you? Have you ever gone through something difficult and realized that your experience could help others? Avril did it, and proved that the greatest strength comes when we turn our pain into purpose. Now, Avril was ready to get her career back on track. And what comes next shows that the queen of pop punk never lost her shine. Stay with me because now the rebellious Avril is back, and stronger than ever. The rebirth of the pop punk star. Now, imagine that you have gone through one of the most difficult battles of your life. You have faced fear, pain, and uncertainty. But after all that, you discover something powerful. You not only survived but you have been reborn even stronger. That is how Avril Lavigne felt when she finally returned to the stage. After the emotional release of Head Above Water, Avril felt that she was ready to return to being the artist that her fans have always loved. She had spent years singing about pain and overcoming, but now she wanted something different. She wanted to have fun again. And so in 2022, Avril released Love Sucks, an album that proved that the queen of pop punk was officially back. If before she sang about her battle to stay alive, now she sang about love, rebellion, and living without regrets. Exactly as she did at the beginning of her career. Songs like Bite Mean and Boi Lige brought back that Avril full of attitude, with heavy guitars, energetic beats and sharp lyrics. She went back to wearing her iconic clothes. Ties, striped socks, messy hair, and that spirit of someone who never lost her essence. And the best part, she returned to the stage, singing live for thousands of fans who had waited years for this moment. The media started saying, Avril is living a new peak. And the truth is that yes, she was. After almost losing everything, Avril proved that she still had a lot to offer the world. She didn't just come back, she came back stronger than ever. And this was the Avril that fans loved. Not only the rebellious girl of pop punk, but also the woman who survived, grew up and now enjoyed every moment of her life to the fullest. I spent years struggling and now I just want to live, make music and have fun. That's what I was born to do, Avril said in an interview. What about you? Have you ever had a moment when you felt like you needed to reconnect with who you really are? Avril found her way back, and proved that it's never too late to start over. Now there was only one thing left. One last step to end this journey with a flourish. Stay with me because in the next chapter we'll talk about the biggest lesson Avril learned from all of this. The lesson of strength and overcoming. Avril Lavigne, a story of resilience. Now think for a moment, how many times in your life have you thought about giving up? How many times have you felt like you didn't have the strength to keep going? If there's anyone who knows what it's like to fall and get up stronger, that person is Avril Lavigne. She went through it all. Overwhelming success, the pressure of fame, the battle against a devastating disease, the uncertainty about the future, and the struggle to find her identity again. But above all, she never gave up. She showed that it is possible to start over from scratch. She proved that being strong does not mean never falling, but rather having the courage to get up. And more than that, she transformed her pain into something greater, helping other people go through the same. Today, Avril continues doing what she loves. Singing, inspiring, and proving that music is more than entertainment. It is a form of healing. I am grateful to be here. I am grateful to be able to make music, live my life, and help other people who are going through what I went through. And if there is one thing this story teaches us, it is that no matter how many times life tries to knock you down, there is always a way to get back up. What about you? What did you learn from Avril's story? Have you ever been through a difficult time and found the strength to move forward? Tell us in the comments. If you like this story and want more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like. Here we bring you the most incredible stories from the world of music, and you won't want to miss the next ones. See you in the next video.